Hello, my name is Patrick Sisawat. I'm a medical assistant, and today I'll be demonstrating and explaining the peak flow meter test. Now, what the peak flow meter test is used for is basically to reassure the patient, meaning we as the medical assistants have to check the airflow of the patient's lungs to see whether there's any problems or no problems. Now, this is the peak flow meter test. It's basically a tube that is connected with the mouthpiece for the patient to basically inhale and exhale. And as you can see, the meters on the peak flow itself, that is to show whether or not if it can go either high or low, depending on how the patient exhales as he or she takes the initiative of inhalation. Now, here to my right is my patient named Bruce Gloriani. He's gonna be my assistant for today in doing this peak flow meter test. Now, what I'm gonna have him do is I'm gonna have him inhale really big, and then the moment he puts his mouth on this mouthpiece right here, I'm gonna ask him to exhale all the way. And we're gonna be doing this 3 times to get the final results. Now, each time it will vary depending on the patient. And you want to make sure that there's loose clothing on the patient too. You want to make sure that the clothing isn't tight, otherwise it's going to affect the peak flow meter test. And as you can see, he's comfortable in his clothing. It's not too tight nor too loose, so it's perfectly fine. All right, Bruce, so I'm going to have you inhale all the way, and the moment you put your mouth on the mouthpiece, I want you to exhale through this mouthpiece. You got it? We're going to do this for 3 times.
Okay.
Here you go. All right, so after the patient has done the first test, I have noticed that it reached up to 160 on the meter test. Now, like I said, it will vary for the other 2 tests, depending on how he exhales and inhales. So here you go. All right, so now I've got a reading of 200, and that's because this time he actually exhaled rather longer than the first test. So 3rd test. All right, now for the 3rd and final test, I have gotten 170, which is right above the first test. And now, as we can see here, he doesn't have any problems within the airflow of his lungs, therefore he's fine. But it all depends in the future events of this patient and what he does. So he will have to come back later though, to check on the so that we can basically check on the airflow of his lungs. And that concludes my peak flow meter test.